It's been 4 months since one of the most notable celebrity cases was given a final verdict. The Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case was personal for many because it touched on topics very close to home, like domestic violence and the personal cost of false allegations. If you keep up with pop culture, we're sure the proceedings didn't escape you. But today, we'll be looking at the top 10 most iconic moments in the trial, so stay tuned. Number 10. The verdict. We'll be starting from the end, since we're sure you already know what went down. Basically, jurors gave a split verdict on the former couple's competing defamation claims more than 3 years after Johnny Depp sued ex-wife Amber Heard for defamation over an op-ed she wrote for the Washington Post about surviving domestic abuse. This is what Johnny argued destroyed his career, and we're inclined to agree, seeing as he lost so many acting roles after the release. You know how things go in the entertainment industry. No one wants to be associated with someone the public hates. When the jury determined that they had both defamed the other, Depp saw the verdict as a victory, while Heard said she was disappointed beyond words. Very different points of view, and isn't that interesting? The Depp-Heard controversy ended up being reduced to a defamation case after 6 weeks of testimony, totaling 61 hours for each side. Depp shared his perspective of a 15-month love-hate marriage, and Heard shared hers, with a lot of dramatic moments. To cap it all up, jurors awarded Depp $15 million, and Heard was granted $2 million in compensatory damages after winning one of her 3 counterclaims against Depp. Both left no stone unturned in their pursuit of this case. There was no devastating or dramatic trial-turning moment of uplifting clarity, though. It was more of a slow grind involving Johnny and Amber wearing each other down. But how did it all begin? Number 9. He said, she said. Depp sued Heard for libel after she said she was a public figure representing domestic abuse in a December 2018 op-ed article. Her lawyer said that the article defamed him even though it never mentioned his name, and we're inclined to agree. The case was actually supposed to be about libel, but it turned into a lawsuit digging into whether Heard had been physically or sexually abused, as she claimed, and if Depp was involved. Many think their relationship can be summed up in 2 words: mutual abuse. At least that's how clinical psychologist Laurel Anderson, Heard's former marriage counselor, described the situation. Dr. Anderson was called to the stand by Depp's team, and she described a volatile relationship where both parties threatened to leave sessions during arguments. This seemed fair, except Dr. Anderson said that in her opinion, Amber was usually the one who started the fight. This was a serious case, but it quickly deteriorated into a case of he said, she said. Amber mentioned over a dozen alleged assaults. Depp said he had never hit Heard or any other woman. He said she was the one who became abusive and bullied him with demeaning name-calling. Number 8. The finger incident. During the 6-week trial, there was a horrible incident brought to light, and it took place in 2015 in Australia. Apparently, this was where Depp was filming the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and according to him, he lost the tip of his middle finger while arguing with Amber, and she threw a smashed vodka bottle at him. He told the jurors that he went into shock and used his own blood to write messages to Heard on the wall. In his words, he said, "I'm not sure what a nervous breakdown feels like, but that's probably as close as I've ever come." It turns out that Depp then used his bloody digit to scrawl cryptic messages on the house's walls, lampshades, and mirrors. Amber actually denied injuring his finger and claimed that Depp sexually assaulted her with a liquor bottle that night. She then said that she had no idea how it happened, but it could have happened when he smashed a wall-mounted phone. She also told the jury through sobs that Depp sexually assaulted her with a bottle. She said, "I was terrified. I had recently married him." Depp's side of the story was contested by a surgeon brought in by Heard's team, who said his description of events was unlikely, mostly because his fingernail remained intact. Dr. Richard Moore said that if events described by Depp had actually occurred, the bottle would have damaged his fingernail, so that sort of put paid to that. However, on Depp's side, there was proof of other forms of physical abuse. He said it could begin with a slap, it could begin with a shove, it could begin with throwing a TV remote at my head. If I stayed to argue, eventually I was sure it was going to escalate into violence. And oftentimes it did. Depp's team did support these claims with Heard's own words, audio recordings, and handwritten notes. Jurors were shown photos of Depp with bruises and scratches on his face. In one particular recording, Heard was heard admitting to hitting Depp before mocking him and calling him a baby. Number 7. Burn Amber. During 4 days of testimony, Depp was questioned about some of the text messages and emails containing graphic insults to his ex-wife he had sent. In one case, he was particularly questioned about a text dialogue he had with British actor Paul Bettany in 2013. The jurors saw emails from Depp to his friend Paul in which he expressed a desire to harm her, saying things like, "Let's drown her before we burn her," and "I will cuff her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she's dead," he wrote in one. He then made an even more obscene suggestion: "Make sure she's dead." The actor told the jury that he was ashamed of the messages and that they were intended to be humorous. Depp claimed the messages were taken out of context and were inspired in part by the performances of Monty Python sketches. "This is a film we'd all watched when we were 10. It's just irreverent and abstract humor," he justified. Number 6. Substance abuse. Throughout the trial, jurors heard two different stories about Depp's drug use. Depp said he was sober for the majority of his relationship with Heard after detoxing from the opioid oxycodone in 2014. He did admit to abusing alcohol and drugs, even referring to himself intoxicated as the monster at times, and said that Heard had grossly embellished the matter. Heard's attorney said that it was Depp's addiction to alcohol and drugs that cost him his career, specifically the opportunity to reprise his role as Jack Sparrow in a planned 6th installment of Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Heard said he'd pass out, get sick, and lose control. Depp then slammed Heard's portrayal of his drug use, calling it grossly embellished and plainly false. His team went on to point out that she also drank and occasionally used drugs, so she's definitely no saint. Number 5. An unexpected star. While this trial brought unusual celebrity to the Fairfax courthouse, it was Depp's lawyer Camille Vasquez that stole the show, emerging as the trial's breakout star. The young lawyer from California captured the attention of millions, and t-shirts with her name and hashtag praising her circulated on various social media. What exactly brought her to the limelight? It was everything, really, but most especially how she handled herself during her sometimes tense cross-examination of Amber Heard. In one particular instance, they went back and forth over a picture of spilled wine. It's one of several photos Heard shared, supposedly from a huge fight between the couple in 2016 that ended with Depp assaulting her. During Ms. Vasquez's questioning, Heard turned to the jurors and claimed that Depp's lawyers had edited the photos to help her ex-case. Vasquez was quick to shut that down, saying, "I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't be making arguments to the jury. I didn't ask you anything." That was definitely an unforgettable moment. Number 4. Personality disorders or PTSD. When Dr. Shannon Curry, a forensic psychologist, was called to the stand by Depp's team, she told jurors she believed Amber Heard had a borderline and histrionic personality disorder. Dr. Curry said that she reached that conclusion after spending approximately 12 hours with Heard in December 2021, conducting mental health tests and reviewing her medical records. In an interesting turn of events, Dr. Curry's diagnosis were rejected by Ms. Heard's team psychologist, Dr. Dawn Hughes. Dr. Hughes, on the other hand, diagnosed Heard with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of intimate partner violence by Depp. These were very conflicting diagnoses for sure, but many admired how well Dr. Curry held her own against Heard's lawyers, who many say seemed to want to discredit her by claiming her diagnoses weren't objective. Number 3. Poop on the bed. Among the many bizarre incidents mentioned during the trial, the story about poop being dumped on Depp's side of the couple's bed definitely grabbed a lot of attention. After arguing with Heard at her 30th birthday party, Depp said he was shown a photograph of fecal matter on the bed. This is where it gets interesting. According to Heard, it was dog poop. Depp said that neither of their dogs could have done it. He says it was human poop. Who would be spiteful enough to poop on Depp's side of the bed? Well, Heard denied being involved, but according to a Depp security guard, she had told him then that it was a horrible practical joke gone wrong. Yet, she said it wasn't her, and then blamed it on one of the couple's dogs. While still on the topic, Heard also accused Depp of once throwing one out of the window of a moving car while howling like an animal. Number 2. The witnesses. During the course of the trial, both sides called a lot of witnesses, and there were several celebrity appearances. An ex-girlfriend of Depp's, actress Ellen Barkin, testified that Depp was jealous, controlling, and drunk a lot of the time, and that he once threw a wine bottle in a hotel room. Bodyguards, agents, business managers, doctors, friends, relatives, and even the former doorman of the luxury penthouse complex where the couple used to live in Los Angeles also testified. "I am so stressed out," said doorman Alejandro Romero, probably speaking for many others involved in the case. "I'm tired of dealing with this." As this case had dragged on for quite some time, his exasperation is quite understandable. But to cap off the long list of witnesses, There was a last-minute addition. Kate Moss, the British supermodel, was in a relationship with Depp from 1994 to 1998. She was summoned by his team in the final week of the trial to rebut a rumor spread by Heard that Depp had shoved her down the stairs in the 1990s. Heard had described a fight with Depp that occurred in 2015, saying that she hit him because he swung at her sister while she was standing at the top of a staircase. In her words, "I just thought of Kate Moss and the stairs and swung at him." When called upon, Kate denied being pushed by Depp down the stairs via video call. She said he never pushed, kicked, or threw me down any stairs. So where exactly did Heard get her information from? Number 1. Fans of Johnny Depp. Fans of Depp waited in line for hours each day to secure coveted seats in the public gallery for the trial, which was held in Fairfax, Virginia. While the audience was generally well-behaved, Judge Penny Escarate threatened to expel them at one point during Heard's testimony. Fans of Johnny Depp also launched a massive social media campaign in his support, using the hashtag #JusticeForJohnnyDepp. Heard even reported receiving thousands of death threats. Millions of people tuned into live streams to watch the trial. Many of them created memes or animated GIFs in real time, mostly praising Depp and mocking Heard. All in all, it was an interesting trial, even though it stretched far too long for some. There were also hiccups. For one, the proceedings were tainted by lawyers' objections and frequent off-audio sidebars. A Heard attorney even objected to his own question at some point. Frequent attorney requests for the judge to rule hearsay, lack of foundation, or beyond the scope highlighted how witnesses could frequently deviate from evidence supporting either side's defamation claims. What was your most iconic moment of the trial? Comment below.